17 people stand around a grave in St. Augustine Cemetery. The priest speaks words that drift away on the wind. Nobody listens. They've heard it all before. Funerals for the elderly follow a script. The coffin holds Annie Callahan, 77 years old, lung cancer, worked 40 years in the Boston shipyards, never married, no children. The obituary in the Boston Globe ran one paragraph. Former Army Air Force's tail gunner, survived World War II. Nothing remarkable. 7 men in Air Force dress uniforms stand at attention. Silver hair, straight backs despite their age. They don't know the family. They've never met Annie Callahan before today. But they know what she did. They know about March 6, 1944. They know about the 4 minutes that changed everything. The rain falls harder. The priest closes his Bible. The family turns to leave. One of the Air Force men steps forward, 84 years old, wheelchair. His name is Vincent DeLuca. He places a single red rose on the casket. "Thank you, Wildcat," he whispers. The family doesn't understand. They never knew their aunt flew combat missions. They never knew she saved 3,000 lives. They never knew she changed warfare forever. History forgot Annie Callahan, but somewhere above these gray clouds, the sky remembers. The tailgun position of B-17 bomber Iron Fist is 38 degrees Fahrenheit. Ice crystals form on the twin 50 caliber machine guns. The plexiglass windows fog with each breath. Annie Callahan sits in that position. 19 years old, 5 feet 4 inches tall, 118 pounds, hands steady on the triggers, eyes scanning the sky behind the bomber formation. She wears a flight jacket 3 sizes too large. It belonged to a man named William Brennan. He lasted 3 missions in this position before the fear broke him. The jacket still smells like his sweat and his terror. Annie doesn't feel fear. She feels something else. Anticipation. 12 Messerschmitt Bf-109 fighters appear at 6 o'clock high. 2,000 yards out, forming up for attack, black crosses on silver wings, sunlight glinting off canopies. Standard doctrine says wait. Let them commit to their attack run. Conserve ammunition. Fire when certain of hits. Annie has never followed standard doctrine. She reaches into her flight jacket, pulls out a photograph. Crinkled edges, stained with oil. 2 faces smile at the camera. Her brother Tommy, boxing gloves on, Golden Gloves Championship. 1941. He's grinning. That cocky South Boston grin that got him into fights and got him out of them. His last words to her echo in the thin air. Strike before being struck, little sister. Always. Annie tucks the photo back, grips the triggers. The German fighters are still forming up. 1,700 yards now. Not in firing range yet. Every manual says wait. Annie Callahan was never good at waiting. She opens fire, tracers arc through empty sky. Most miss by hundreds of feet. The German formation scatters. Lead fighter breaks right. Wingmen hesitate. The coordinated attack disintegrates before it begins. Captain Jameson Whitmore's voice crackles over the intercom. Sharp, angry. "Tail gunner, cease fire, you're burning ammunition." Annie doesn't stop shooting. Short, controlled bursts, walking the tracers through the space where the Germans were supposed to be. "Negative, sir," she says. Her voice is calm, almost cheerful. Watch what happens next. The German fighters regroup, but something has changed. They approach cautiously now. No aggressive diving attack, hesitant, probing, testing. The initiative has shifted. Sergeant Vincent DeLuca sits in the radio operator position. Italian kid from Brooklyn. 32 years old, he's seen 17 combat missions, watched 3 tail gunners die. He knows what aggressive fire looks like. This is different. This is surgical. DeLuca keys his intercom. "Captain, the kid might be onto something." Whitmore doesn't respond. He's too busy keeping Iron Fist in formation. But he's watching, calculating, wondering if the tail gunner in his aircraft just rewrote the book on defensive tactics. Or if they're all about to die because of it. Annie Callahan is 15 years old when she learns that survival means taking initiative. The neighborhood kids call her Runt. She's small, skinny, red hair in a perpetual tangle, freckles across her nose. She looks like every Irish kid in South Boston looks. Unremarkable, but she has a brother. Tommy Callahan is 18, Golden Gloves boxer, middleweights. He's got fast hands and faster feet. Everyone in the neighborhood knows Tommy. He works the docks with their father during the day. Trains at Murphy's gym at night, fights on weekends. Tommy teaches Annie everything he knows, not the boxing. Annie's too small for that, too light. She'd get destroyed in the ring, but she's quick, and Tommy recognizes something in her that nobody else sees. She doesn't back down. The first fight happens on a Tuesday, October 1940. Annie is walking home from school. 3 boys from the west side block her path. Older kids, bigger. They want her lunch money. Standard response. Give them the money. Walk away. Tell Tommy later, let him handle it. Annie hits the first boy in the throat before he finishes his demand. He goes down choking. The second boy grabs her. She stomps his instep, drives her elbow into his ribs, breaks free. The third boy backs away, hands up, not worth it. Annie walks home with her lunch money intact. Tommy finds out that night. Not from Annie, from the boys' older brothers. They show up at the Callahan house, angry, ready to make it right. Patrick Callahan opens the door, 52 years old, dock worker, hands like concrete blocks. He looks at the 3 men, then looks at his daughter standing behind him. She started, he asks. They tried to rob her, Tommy says from the kitchen. She finished it. Patrick turns back to the men. Sounds like your boys learned a lesson. They're welcome to try again if they want another one. The men leave. That night, Tommy sits with Annie on the back steps. Cold October air, stars hidden by city lights. You're going to get yourself killed, Tommy says. Better than getting robbed, Annie replies. Tommy laughs. You're not wrong, but you need to understand something. Fighting's not about being tough, it's about being smart. You act first because it gives you the advantage, but you act first and you act right. I acted right. You acted lucky. Next time you might not be, so I'm going to teach you how to do it proper. For the next 2 years, Tommy Callahan teaches his little sister how to fight. Not boxing, street fighting, dirty fighting, survival fighting, target the throat, gouge the eyes, stomp the knee, break the fingers. No rules except one: finish the fight before the other guy knows it started. By December 1941, Annie Callahan has been in 32 fights. She's lost 4. She started all 32 of them. The news comes over the radio at Murphy's gym. Tommy is wrapping his hands for sparring. Annie is sitting ringside doing homework. The announcer's voice cuts through the normal Sunday afternoon programming. Japanese aircraft have attacked Pearl Harbor. The gym goes silent. 40 men stop what they're doing. Trainers, fighters, kids who came to watch. Everyone stares at the radio. Tommy unwraps his hands slowly, methodically. He looks at Annie. It's happening, he says. What is war? By Monday morning, the line outside the recruitment office stretches 3 blocks. Tommy Callahan is near the front, Marines. They're the first to fight, and he wants to be first. Annie stands with him for 2 hours, cold December wind cutting through her jacket. She's 16 years old now, still small, still looks like every Irish kid in Boston. I'm going with you, she says. You're 16. So I'll lie about my age. You're a girl. So I'll lie about that too. Tommy looks at her, really looks. He sees the determination in her eyes, the same determination that carried her through 32 street fights. The same fire that made her strike first and strike hard. Not yet, Tommy says. You're too young. But when you're old enough, if this war is still going, you do what you need to do. You hear me? You do what you need to do. Why, because I won't be here to protect you anymore. You'll have to protect yourself, and maybe you'll protect somebody else too. Tommy Callahan ships out to Paris Island on December 15th, 1941. Boot camp, then advanced infantry training, then transport to the Pacific, 1st Marine Division. His letters come regularly at first. Training is hard, but he's handling it. He's made friends. He thinks about the gym, about Boston, about Annie. The letters slow down in October 1942. Sporadic, brief. He can't tell her where he is. Censorship. But Annie knows. Everyone knows. Marines are fighting in a place called Guadalcanal, a jungle island nobody in Boston had heard of 6 months ago. The last letter arrives November 28, 1942. Annie reads it 17 times before she memorizes every word. Runt. Things are hot here. Can't say much. I want you to know something, though. Everything I taught you about fighting, that wasn't just for the neighborhood, that's for life. When somebody wants to hurt you or hurt people you care about, you don't wait for permission. You don't wait for them to throw the first punch. You strike before being struck. You press hard, and you keep pressing until they can't press back. The world's a bigger street now. Same rules apply. Take care of Ma and Pa. Tell them I'm fine. And when this is over, we'll go back to Murphy's and I'll teach you the uppercut I've been working on. Strike first, little sister, always. Tommy. The telegram arrives December 12, 1942. Private First Class Thomas P. Callahan. Killed in action. Guadalcanal. December 9, 1942. Age 21. Patrick Callahan opens the telegram. Reads it once. Sits at the kitchen table. Doesn't move for 3 hours. Annie's mother cries for 2 days. Annie doesn't cry at all. She goes to Tommy's room, opens his closet, finds his old boxing gloves, the ones he used when he first started training. She puts them on. They're too big. They swallow her hands. She hits the heavy bag until her knuckles bleed through the leather. Then she makes a decision. The recruiting sergeant looks at the kid standing in front of his desk. Small, young face, bad haircut. Wears a jacket 2 sizes too big. Probably belonged to an older brother. Name, the sergeant asks. Andrew Callahan. Age, 18. It's a lie. Annie Callahan is 17, won't turn 18 until March. Any family in service? Brother, Marines, killed at Guadalcanal. Not a lie. The sergeant's expression softens, just slightly. He's processed 200 recruits this month. Half of them have brothers or fathers or uncles overseas. The other half are lying about their age. This kid looks sincere, though. Looks motivated. The kind of motivation that comes from grief. What branch? Army Air Forces, gunnery. Why gunnery? Because I want to shoot the bastards who killed my brother. Also not a lie. The sergeant studies the kid. Something seems off. The face is too smooth, the hands too small, but it's December 1942 and the military needs bodies. They need gunners. Bomber losses are catastrophic. Tail gunner casualty rates are pushing 40%. If this kid wants to die in a B-17 over Germany, that's his business. Physical examination is Thursday. Report at 0600. Don't be late. Annie Callahan passes the physical. Barely. The doctor is 70 years old, half blind, retired but called back to service because the young doctors are all overseas. He listens to her heart, checks her reflexes. Marks fit for service on the form. He never asks her to remove her binding. Basic training is 8 weeks at Lackland Field, Texas. Annie keeps her head down, showers after everyone else, changes clothes in the latrine stalls, keeps her secret. The other recruits think Andrew Callahan is quiet, shy, doesn't talk much about home, works hard though, never complains, can run 5 miles without breaking, can do push-ups until the sergeant gets bored counting. The shooting range is where Andrew Callahan stops being invisible. Rifle qualification, M1 Garand, 300 yards. Annie picks up the rifle. It's heavy, heavier than anything Tommy had her train with. But the principle is the same. Breathe, aim, squeeze, don't pull. She scores expert on the first try. The range sergeant walks over. You shoot before Callahan. Yes, sir. My brother taught me. Your brother teach you good. Ever think about sniper school? Respectfully, sir, I want gunnery. I want to shoot from a bomber. Why? Because bombers fly over Germany. Because Germans killed her brother's friends in the Pacific. Because someone has to press back, and she learned from Tommy Callahan that seizing initiative is how you survive. Because that's where I can do the most damage, sir. The sergeant nods, makes a note on her file. Gunnery school it is. Flexible Gunnery School, Kingman, Arizona, March 1943. The instructors at Gunnery School have seen thousands of recruits. Most are 18 to 22 years old. Farm boys, city kids, college dropouts, factory workers, all of them eager. Most of them dead within 6 months. The instructors teach defensive gunnery. Wait for the fighter to commit to an attack run. Track the target, lead appropriately, fire in controlled bursts, conserve ammunition. A bomber carries limited rounds, make every shot count. It's doctrine, it's tested, it's proven. It's also getting 40% of tail gunners killed. Annie Callahan listens to the lectures, takes notes, scores high on written tests. But when she's in the turret simulator, something is different. The simulator puts the student in a mock tail gun position. Instructors control projected fighter images. The fighters attack from various angles. The student tracks and fires. The system records accuracy, ammunition expenditure, target acquisition speed. Annie's scores are unusual. She fires too early, opens up at ranges where hits are statistically improbable, burns through ammunition at twice the normal rate. But her target acquisition speed is the fastest in her class. Staff Sergeant Harold Wallace is 42 years old, too old for combat, perfect for instruction. He's trained 600 gunners, sent them to Europe, watched their names appear on casualty lists with depressing regularity. He pulls Andrew Callahan aside after the third simulator session. You're shooting too early, Callahan. Yes, sir. You're wasting ammunition. Yes, sir. You understand doctrine says conserve rounds. Wait for high probability shots. I understand the doctrine, sir. Then why aren't you following it? Annie looks at the older man, decides to risk honesty. Because defensive doctrine assumes the enemy controls the timing of the fight. They decide when to attack. We react. I think that's backwards. Wallace crosses his arms. Explain. If I wait for them to commit to an attack run, they've already decided how and when to engage us. I'm reacting. But if I fire while they're still forming up before they commit, I force them to react to me. I take away their timing. I seize their advantage. You also take away your ammunition. Better to burn 300 rounds and prevent an attack than save 300 rounds and take cannon fire. Wallace stares at this skinny kid from Boston. This quiet recruit who barely speaks in barracks but has theories about defensive tactics that contradict everything in the manual. You're going to get yourself killed, Callahan. Maybe, sir, but I'm going to take some of them with me first. Wallace makes a note in Annie's file. Aggressive tendencies, high target acquisition speed, unconventional tactics. Recommend assignment to experienced crew. Needs supervision. Annie Callahan graduates gunnery school on June 3, 1943, third in her class of 85 students. Not because of accuracy, because of speed. She can acquire targets faster than anyone Wallace has ever trained. Her secret, she doesn't wait for fighters to enter her firing zone. She hunts them before they get there. Framlingham, England, 390th Bombardment Group, February 1944. The crossing to England takes 14 days. Troop transport, packed bunks, rough seas. Annie spends most of the voyage sick, green, miserable. The other gunners tease Andrew Callahan about being soft. She doesn't argue, keeps her head down, survives the crossing. England in February is cold, wet, gray. The airbase at Framlingham is mud and metal. Rows of B-17 bombers, mechanics working around the clock, crews preparing for missions, men who won't come back. Annie is assigned to the 390th Bombardment Group, B-17 Iron Fist, 10-man crew, Captain Jameson Whitmore, pilot, 28 years old, already flown 6 missions, seen 3 different tail gunners come and go. The first died when his oxygen system failed at altitude, passed out, froze to death before they realized he was gone. The second took shrapnel from flak over Bremen, bled out before they made it back to England. The third was William Brennan. Survived 3 missions, requested transfer to ground crew after the third couldn't take the fear anymore. Whitmore interviews Annie personally. They sit in the officers' club, quiet corner. Whitmore nurses a whiskey. Annie drinks coffee. "You know the statistics?" Whitmore asks. "Yes, sir." Tail gunner position has the highest casualty rate in the 8th Air Force. 38% don't finish their tour. 25 missions. You understand what that means? Means I've got 62% odds of surviving. I'll take them. Whitmore studies this kid, young, baby-faced, probably lied about his age. They all do. But there's something in the kid's eyes. Not fear, not bravado, something else. Calculation. "Why'd you volunteer for this?" Whitmore asks. "Because I don't wait for them to shoot at me, sir. I engage first." That's not doctrine. Doctrine's getting gunners killed at 38%. Maybe it's time we tried something different. Whitmore finishes his whiskey. "You're either very brave or very stupid, Callahan." "Probably both, sir. You'll fit right in." Annie meets the rest of the crew the next morning. Pre-flight briefing room. Maps on the walls. Coffee that tastes like oil. Men who look older than their years. Sergeant Vincent DeLuca is the crew chief. 32. Brooklyn accent. Italian features. He's seen combat. It shows in the way he moves. Careful. Deliberate. Like a man who knows that mistakes kill people. "You're the new tail, huh?" DeLuca says. He looks Annie up and down, not impressed. "You look like you're 12. 19, Sergeant." "Sure you are. You ever fire a gun in combat?" "No, Sergeant." "You scared?" Annie thinks about Tommy, about the 32 street fights in South Boston, about the photograph in her jacket pocket. "No, Sergeant. I'm ready." DeLuca grunts. "We'll see." The waist gunners are Sergeant Patrick O'Brien and Sergeant Michael Fitzpatrick, both Irish, both from Philadelphia, both older than Annie by 5 years. They treat her like a kid brother, protective, gentle. Don't want to get attached because tail gunners don't last. The ball turret gunner is Sergeant Joseph Morrison, small guy. Has to be small to fit in that position. Barely speaks, reads letters from his wife between missions. The nose gunner and bombardier is Lieutenant Charles Hammond. Rich kid, Yale graduate. Joined up because it was the right thing to do. Terrified every mission but hides it well. They're a crew, professionals. They've survived 6 missions together. They've learned to trust each other. Now they have to learn to trust Andrew Callahan. The kid who thinks engaging first is better than shooting smart. March 2nd, 1944. Mission number 1, Schweinfurt. The briefing is at 0500 hours. Target ball bearing factory at Schweinfurt, Germany. Strategic bombing. Disrupt German war production. Expected resistance heavy flak, estimated 200 fighter aircraft. Estimated losses 12 to 15 bombers. That's acceptable. That's within parameters. Annie sits in the briefing and does the math. 15 bombers, 10 crew each, 150 men, acceptable losses. Tommy died at Guadalcanal because someone decided marine casualties were acceptable. She decides nothing is acceptable. Iron Fist takes off at 0647 hours. Formation assembly over East Anglia. Climb to altitude 23,000 feet. Temperature 38 degrees. Oxygen masks. Heated suits. The world below becomes a miniature. Fields and towns and rivers that look like toys. Annie settles into the tail position. Checks her guns. Twin Browning M2 50 caliber machine guns. Rate of fire 800 rounds per minute combined. Effective range 1,000 yards. Maximum range 2,000 yards if you don't care about accuracy. She has 2,000 rounds loaded, 1,000 per gun. Standard doctrine says that's enough for 3 to 4 engagement sequences. Annie plans to use it all in the first sequence. The call comes at 10:47 hours. Fighters 6 o'clock high, 8 bandits. Annie swivels her guns. 8 Messerschmitt Bf 109s, 1,500 yards out, forming attack pattern, standard approach, 4 fighters in the lead element, 4 trailing for follow-up. Every manual Annie studied says the same thing: wait for the lead element to commit to their attack dive, track the lead fighter. Fire when he enters effective range at 1,000 yards. Short controlled bursts, conserve ammunition for the trailing element. Annie opens fire at 1,500 yards. The tracers arc through the sky. Most miss. At this range, accuracy is maybe 5%. But Annie's not shooting to hit. She's shooting to intimidate. The effect is immediate. The German formation breaks. Lead fighters peel off left and right. The coordination dissolves. The trailing element hesitates. The attack pattern that should have put 8 fighters on Iron Fist's tail becomes a scattered mess. Whitmore's voice explodes over the intercom. "Tail gunner, cease fire. You're wasting ammunition." Annie doesn't stop. She tracks the rightmost fighter, waits until it tries to regroup, fires another burst. The fighter peels away again. "Negative, sir," Annie says into her microphone. Her voice is steady, almost cheerful. "Watch what happens next." The German fighters regroup, but they're cautious now. Wary. They approach from different angles, no coordinated dive, individual probing attacks. Annie lets one get close, 1,200 yards, well within effective range. She tracks it, leads it, fires a sustained burst. 50 rounds in 4 seconds. The fighter's canopy shatters. The aircraft rolls left. Smoke trails from the engine. It falls away. Not a certain kill, but damage. Enough to make the pilot think twice. The remaining 7 fighters break off. They don't retreat. They shadow the bomber formation, waiting for another opportunity. But they don't attack Iron Fist again. They find easier targets. DeLuca's voice comes over the intercom, impressed despite himself. "Tail, that was either brilliant or crazy." "Can't it be both?" Annie replies. After the mission back at Framlingham, DeLuca counts the ammunition expenditure. He finds Annie in the tail position, still cleaning her guns. "You fired 1,600 rounds, DeLuca says. "Standard load is 2,000. You used 80% of your ammo on one engagement." "And we didn't get hit," Annie points out. "What if they came back?" "They didn't." "What if they had?" Annie looks at the older man. "Then I'd have 400 rounds left, enough to make them think twice again." Sergeant, respectful question, "How many tail gunners have you seen?" 4, counting you. "How'd the other 3 do with defensive tactics?" DeLuca's face hardens. "1 died, 1 transferred out, 1's in the hospital with shrapnel wounds. And I fired 1,600 rounds and we came home untouched. I'll take that trade every single time." DeLuca stares at this kid. This impossible kid who talks about ammunition expenditure like a chess player talks about sacrificed pawns. "You got lucky today, Callahan." "Maybe," Annie says. "Or maybe doctrine's been wrong and nobody wanted to admit it." That night, Annie writes a letter she'll never send. "Dear Tommy, first mission today. Did what you taught me. Pressed first, pressed hard. They scattered like pigeons. I think you'd be proud. Miss you. Annie." She folds the letter, puts it in her footlocker with the others. Dozens of unsent letters to a dead brother. Then she lies in her bunk and stares at the ceiling and doesn't sleep. March 4th, 1944. Mission number 2, reconnaissance over northern Germany. The second mission is lighter, fewer bombers, shorter route, photo reconnaissance. The 390th provides escort for the reconnaissance aircraft, expected fighter resistance moderate. They encounter 18 German fighters. This time Annie tries something different. The Germans approach in standard formation. 6 fighters in echelon. Lead fighter high. Wingmen step down to his right. Standard Luftwaffe attack pattern. They've done this 1,000 times. Standard response track the lead fighter. He's the threat. He's the one who'll make the gun run. Annie ignores the lead fighter. She targets the second aircraft, the wingman, the one who thinks he's safe because the tail gunner is supposed to focus on lead. Annie fires at 1,300 yards, a long burst, 75 rounds. The wingman never sees it coming. He's focused on maintaining formation, watching his leader, following doctrine. The rounds walk up his fuselage. Engine, cockpit, canopy. The fighter explodes, just disintegrates. One moment it's an aircraft, next moment it's debris tumbling through the sky. The lead fighter suddenly finds himself alone. His wingman gone. His support evaporated. The attack pattern he trained for is broken. He breaks off immediately. The entire formation scatters. O'Brien's voice comes over the intercom, stunned. Tail just splashed a 109 at 1,300 yards. Clean kill. Fitzpatrick adds, "Kid's not just shooting, she's thinking." There's a moment of silence on the intercom, then Fitzpatrick's voice again, quieter. "Did I just say she?" Annie's heart stops. DeLuca's voice cuts through, calm, authoritative. "You said nothing, Fitz. Ears must be frozen. Happens at altitude." "Right," Fitzpatrick says slowly. "Frozen ears." But the secret is out, at least to the crew. After they land, Whitmore calls Annie into his office. DeLuca is already there. They close the door. "How long?" Whitmore asks. Annie considers lying, decides against it. These men have flown 2 combat missions with her. They've trusted her with their lives. She owes them honesty. Since basic training. "You're a woman." "Yes, sir." Whitmore sits down heavily, runs his hands through his hair. "Jesus Christ, you know what kind of trouble this is." "Yes, sir." "You know I should report this immediately." "Yes, sir." "You know they'll pull you off flight status, probably court-martial you." "Yes, sir." Whitmore looks at DeLuca. "What do you think?" DeLuca shrugs. "I think Andrew Callahan shot down a fighter at 1,300 yards and saved our asses. I think whoever this person actually is, they're the best tail gunner we've had. I think doctrine says we need every gunner we can get, and I think if we report this, we're flying tomorrow with nobody in the tail." Whitmore considers this. Command would crucify him if they found out he knowingly flew with a woman in combat, against regulations, against doctrine, against every rule in the book, but doctrine is also getting people killed. And this kid, this woman, just proved that breaking doctrine works. "Your real name?" Whitmore asks. "Annie. Annie Callahan." "Annie Callahan," Whitmore repeats. "The most dangerous tail gunner in the 8th Air Force." "All right. Here's how this works. As far as anyone outside this crew knows, you're Andrew. We keep this quiet. You keep saving our asses. Deal?" "Deal, sir." That night, the crew of Iron Fist gathers in their barracks. O'Brien, Fitzpatrick, Morrison, Hammond. All of them. Whitmore stands at the front. "You all know by now. Andrew is Annie. She's been a woman this whole time. Anyone have a problem with that?" O'Brien raises his hand. "Yeah, I got a problem." Annie tenses. "My problem," O'Brien continues, "is that she's a better shot than me, and I've been doing this for 6 missions. Makes me look bad." Fitzpatrick grins. My problem is I've been trying to teach her to curse properly and she's been too polite. Now I know why. Morrison speaks up. Rare for him. She saved my life today. Don't care if she's a woman or a Martian. Hammond nods. Seconded. DeLuca claps Annie on the shoulder. Welcome to the crew, Wildcat. The nickname sticks. From that night forward in private, they call her Wildcat. In public, she's still Andrew Callahan. But everyone on Iron Fist knows the truth, and everyone on Iron Fist keeps the secret. March 5th, 1944. The night before. The briefing for March 6th comes at 1800 hours. The entire group assembles. Every crew, every aircraft. The briefing room is packed. The intelligence officer pulls back the curtain covering the map. A collective groan goes through the room. Augsburg, Germany. Deep penetration, 800 B-17s. The largest daylight bombing raid of the war so far. Expected fighter resistance 2,500 German aircraft. Expected losses classified, which means they're catastrophic. Whitmore sits in the briefing and does math in his head. 2,500 fighters against 800 bombers. That's 3 fighters per bomber, and they'll concentrate on the stragglers, the damaged aircraft, the ones who can't keep up with formation. Iron Fist has been lucky so far. No serious damage, no engine failures, but luck runs out. The intelligence officer continues. We have identified several elite German fighter squadrons that will likely engage, including this one. A photograph appears on the screen, black and white. A German pilot standing next to a Bf-109. 47 kill markings on the fuselage. Hauptmann Klaus Becker, 47 confirmed victories, specializes in attacking bomber formations from the 6 o'clock position. Tail attacks. He shot down 12 Allied bombers personally. Intelligence believes his squadron will be in the target area tomorrow. Annie stares at the photograph, studies the German pilot's face. Young, maybe 26, professional, competent, dangerous. After the briefing, Annie finds DeLuca in the maintenance hangar. He's supervising the armament crew, loading ammunition, checking gun mechanisms, making sure everything works. Sergeant, Annie says, can I ask you something? Sure, kid. You were a tail gunner before you transferred to crew chief. Yeah, 1942. 15 missions. How'd you survive? DeLuca stops working, looks at her, really looks. You want the truth, please. Luck, pure luck. I fired defensively, followed doctrine, conserved ammunition, did everything right according to the manual. And I watched 2 other aircraft in my formation get shot down while I survived. No reason for it, just luck. The Germans picked them instead of me. What would you have done different? DeLuca considers this. Your way. Aggressive fire. Take away their initiative. Force them to react instead of attack. Everything you've been doing. I didn't have the guts to try it. Doctrine said one thing. I was too scared to try another. Tomorrow's going to be bad, isn't it? Yeah, tomorrow's going to be very bad. But you know something, I'd rather fly into that with you in the tail than anyone else I've seen. Because you don't wait for death to come find you. You go hunting first. Annie nods, goes to her barracks, opens her footlocker, takes out Tommy's photograph, studies his face, that cocky grin, those confident eyes. She writes one more letter she'll never send. Dear Tommy, tomorrow's the big one. 2 500 fighters. They say it's suicide. But I remember what you taught me. The world's a bigger street now. Same rules apply. I'm going to press first, going to press hard, going to make them scared to come at me. If I don't come back, tell Ma and Pa I was brave. Tell them I did what you would have done. Love you, brother. Annie. She folds the letter, puts it with the others. Then she takes Tommy's photograph and tucks it into her flight jacket pocket, right over her heart. That night she doesn't sleep. None of them sleep. They sit in the barracks and drink terrible coffee and check their equipment and try not to think about the statistics. 800 bombers, 2,500 fighters. Tomorrow a lot of people are going to die. Annie Callahan plans to make sure she's not one of them, and she plans to make the Germans pay for every inch of sky. March 6, 1944. 04:30 hours. The wake-up call comes while it's still dark. Annie dresses in silence. Layers of clothing, heated suit, flight jacket, Brennan's old jacket that now belongs to her. Breakfast is at 0500, eggs and coffee. She can't eat. Nobody eats. They just sit and stare at their plates and think about the briefing. 2,500 fighters. Whitmore gives them a pep talk, standard stuff. They've trained for this. They're professionals. They're the best crews in the 8th Air Force. They'll do their jobs and come home. He doesn't mention the expected losses. He doesn't have to. At 0630, they walk to Iron Fist. The bomber sits on the hard stand. Silver metal, 4 engines, 50 caliber machine guns bristling from every position. It looks powerful, invincible. It's not. Annie climbs into the tail position, settles into the seat, checks her guns, 2,000 rounds, 1,000 per side. It feels like nowhere near enough. DeLuca appears in the fuselage, hands her a thermos. Extra coffee, it's going to be a long day. Thanks, Vinny. You scared? Annie thinks about this, decides on honesty. Terrified. Good. Fear keeps you sharp. Just remember what you do best. What's that? You make them scared, too. The engines start at 0640, one by one. The roar builds, the aircraft shakes. Annie can feel the power through the metal frame. They taxi at 0645. Line up on the runway, 800 bombers doing the same thing across England. 8,000 men preparing to fly into hell. Iron Fist rolls at 0647 hours. The acceleration presses Annie back into her seat. The tail comes up. The wheels leave the ground. They're airborne. Formation assembly takes 45 minutes. 800 aircraft finding their places, climbing to altitude. The sky fills with contrails, silver bombers catching the early morning sun. It's beautiful. It's the largest armada Annie has ever seen. And somewhere over Germany, 2,500 fighters are waiting for them. They cross the channel at 0824 hours. The English coast disappears behind them. The French coast appears ahead, occupied territory, enemy territory, no turning back now. Annie settles into her position, scans the sky, clear, empty. The Germans are waiting, picking their moment. Her hands rest on the triggers, not tense, relaxed, ready. Tommy's photograph presses against her heart through the layers of clothing. Strike first, little sister, always. She's ready. At 0919 hours, the call comes. Fighters 6 o'clock high, 12 bandits. Annie swivels her guns, 12 Messerschmitt Bf 109s at 2,000 yards, forming up for attack. Black crosses on silver wings and in the lead position, flying with the precision of an expert Hauptmann Klaus Becker. 47 kills, about to try for 48. Standard procedure says wait, let them commit, fire defensively. Annie Callahan has never followed standard procedure. Her fingers tighten on the triggers. The sky ahead is empty. The sky behind is full of death. 4 minutes. That's all it takes. 4 minutes to change everything. 4 minutes to rewrite doctrine. 4 minutes to prove that survival doesn't come from waiting. It comes from making the enemy too scared to fight. Annie Callahan opens fire, and the war changes forever. The 12 Messerschmitt Bf 109s hang in the sky like silver daggers. 2,000 yards out, sunlight glints off their canopies. Black crosses on gray wings. They're forming up. Textbook approach. Lead element of 4. Supporting element of 4. Reserve element of 4. Professional. Coordinated. Deadly. Annie Callahan watches them through her gun sight. Her breath fogs the inside of her oxygen mask. The temperature in the tail position is 36 degrees. Her fingers are cold despite the heated gloves. She recognizes the formation pattern. She studied it at gunnery school, studied it in her bunk at night. This is how Luftwaffe aces attack. The lead draws defensive fire. The wingmen exploit the gunner's focus. The reserves finish wounded bombers. It works because defensive gunners react. They wait. They track. They respond to what the enemy does. Annie Callahan doesn't react. She acts. Her fingers rest on the triggers. The twin 50 caliber machine guns are loaded. 1,000 rounds per gun. 2,000 total. Standard load. Not enough for what's coming, but enough for what she plans to do. The German fighters tighten their formation. 1,800 yards now. They're committing, beginning their approach run. In 30 seconds, they'll be close enough for standard engagement range. 1,000 yards. That's when defensive doctrine says to open fire. Annie opens fire at 1,800 yards. The twin 50s roar. The sound is deafening even through her leather helmet. Tracers arc through the thin air. Most miss by hundreds of feet. At this range, accuracy is less than 10%. Annie's not shooting to hit. She's shooting to break their nerve. The effect is immediate and catastrophic. The lead element scatters. The fighter on the left breaks hard right. The fighter on the right rolls left. The two center aircraft pull up. The coordination disintegrates in 3 seconds. The supporting element hesitates. Their attack pattern depends on the lead element drawing fire. But the lead element isn't there anymore. They're scattered across 1,000 yards of sky trying to reform. The reserve element holds position. Watching. Learning. Tail gunner, cease fire. Whitmore's voice cracks through the intercom. Sharp. Angry. You're burning ammunition. Annie doesn't stop. She walks her tracers through the space where the Germans were supposed to be, where their attack pattern should have taken them. She's not chasing the aircraft that scattered. She's denying them the space to regroup. Negative, sir, Annie says. Her voice is steady, almost conversational. They're reforming. Watch what happens next. In the radio operator position, Vincent DeLuca monitors the German frequencies. He speaks enough German to follow basic communications. What he hears makes his blood run cold. 379er break, left tail gunner is active. He's firing outside effective range. Ignore it. Negative pattern is broken. Recommend abort and reposition. DeLuca keys his intercom. They're talking about us, about the tail position. They sound confused. Good, Annie mutters. She's tracking the rightmost fighter. It's trying to swing wide. Gain altitude. Come back in from a different angle. She fires another burst, 30 rounds. The fighter sees the tracers, pulls up sharply, abandons the approach. 11 fighters remaining in attack position, 1,700 rounds remaining. The German formation regroups at 2,000 yards. But something has changed. They're cautious now, wary. The aggressive diving attack they trained for has become a careful probe. The initiative has shifted, and in the lead position, Hauptmann Klaus Becker realizes he's facing something new. 0921 hours. Becker's perspective. Klaus Becker has 47 confirmed kills. He's flown 216 combat missions. He's engaged American bombers 43 times. He knows their tactics. He knows their gunners, defensive fire, controlled bursts, ammunition conservation. They wait for you to commit, then they track, then they fire. Predictable, professional, manageable. This gunner is different. This gunner fires at 1,800 yards, wastes ammunition, shoots at empty sky, but the formation broke anyway. Professional pilots with hundreds of hours scattered like training students, not because of the threat of being hit, because of the psychological impact of being shot at while still forming up. Becker keys his radio, calm, authoritative. All units, this tail gunner is aggressive. Non-standard tactics, adjust approach, come in from oblique angles, split his attention. Jawohl, Herr Hauptmann. The formation splits. 6 fighters move to attack from 7 o'clock high. 6 from 5 o'clock high. Becker holds the reserve element at 6 o'clock, straight stern. If the tail gunner focuses on one group, the other gets through. If he divides his attention, he's ineffective against both. Standard counter to aggressive defense. Becker watches the bomber, B-17. Iron Fist painted on the nose. 4 engines. Flying steady in formation, no visible damage. But the tail gunner is moving, traversing guns between the 2 attack vectors, trying to cover both angles. All units, Becker says, execute attack in 3, 2, 1, execute. 12 fighters dive toward Iron Fist from 2 directions simultaneously. 09:21 hours. Annie's response. Annie sees the split formation, sees the coordinated dive. This is exactly what she expected, what she planned for. Standard response: try to cover both attack vectors, divide fire between the 2 groups, hope the waist gunners can help. Annie chooses violence instead. She ignores the 5 o'clock attack completely, lets it come. Trusts O'Brien and Fitzpatrick to handle it. She focuses everything on the 6 fighters coming from 7 o'clock, all her attention, all her ammunition, all her aggression. "Paddy Mickey," she says into the intercom, calm, almost cheerful. "You've got 5 o'clock, I'm holding 7. Copy, tail." O'Brien's voice is tense. "We got it." The 6 fighters from 7 o'clock are at 1,500 yards and closing fast. Closing speed is over 400 knots. That gives Annie maybe 12 seconds before they're in cannon range. She picks the lead aircraft, locks her sight on the nose and fires sustained burst. Not controlled 3-round bursts from the manual. Sustained fire. The guns roar. Tracers stream across the sky. The concentration of fire is overwhelming. At 1,300 yards, rounds find metal. The lead fighter's engine cowling shatters. Smoke erupts. The aircraft shudders. The pilot pulls up hard, trying to gain altitude, trying to make it home. He won't. The engine fails at 12,000 feet. The fighter goes into a spin. Annie doesn't watch it fall. She's already tracking the next target. Second fighter, now leading the formation. 1,100 yards and closing. Annie fires again, walking the tracers into the flight path. The pilot sees them coming. Has 2 choices: hold course and get hit, or break formation and abort attack. He breaks, rolls right, dives away, survival instinct overriding mission discipline. 4 fighters remaining in the 7 o'clock attack, 900 yards, 8 seconds to impact. Annie shifts to the 3rd fighter. This one's flying wingman position, slightly behind and to the right of the new lead. He thinks he's safe. The tail gunner is supposed to focus on the lead threat. Annie shoots the wingman instead. 50 rounds in 4 seconds. The fighter flies directly into the stream. Metal tears. Canopy shatters. The aircraft disintegrates. Pieces tumble earthward. 3 remaining. 700 yards. 5 seconds. They break, all 3, simultaneously, not repositioning for another pass. Full defensive maneuvers. They peel away from Iron Fist like she's on fire. Because from their perspective she is. That tail position just killed 2 fighters and damaged a 3rd in 12 seconds. DeLuca's voice comes through the intercom, stunned. "Tail just splashed 2 in 12 seconds. German radio is going crazy." From the 5 o'clock attack, O'Brien and Fitzpatrick managed to damage 1 fighter, drive off 2 more. The remaining 3 broke off when they saw what happened to the 7 o'clock attack. 15 fighters attempted coordinated assault. 0 made it through. Annie checks her ammunition. 1,600 rounds remaining. She's burned 400 in less than 2 minutes. At this rate, she'll be dry in 8 minutes, and the mission is scheduled to last 9 hours. "Captain," Annie says into her microphone, "recommend we stay tight with formation. They'll be back, and they'll be angry." "Copy, tail." Whitmore's voice is tight, controlled. He's flying the bomber with one part of his brain, trying to process what just happened with the other part. "Good shooting, but watch your ammo." "Roger, sir. I'll make it last." She's lying. She plans to use every single round before they reach the target. Because Klaus Becker isn't done, and Annie Callahan knows it. 0924 hours. Escalation. For 3 minutes, the sky is empty. The German fighters have pulled back, regrouping, reassessing. Iron Fist flies steady in formation, the drone of 4 radial engines. The whistle of wind past aluminum skin. DeLuca monitors the German radio frequencies. The chatter has increased. Different squadrons communicating, coordinating. Tail gunner fires early, outside normal range. Broke formation with aggressive fire. 2 aircraft lost. Recommend avoid direct stern approach. Hauptmann Becker ordering additional units to intercept. DeLuca keys the intercom. Annie, they're calling in reinforcements. Specific orders mention our aircraft. They want us. Annie doesn't respond immediately. She's scanning the sky, looking for the glint of metal, the telltale contrails of approaching fighters. She finds them at 0926 hours, 4 o'clock high, 18 aircraft, a full staffel. They're not forming up for coordinated attack. They're swarming. Bandits, Annie calls. 4 o'clock high, 18 plus. Whitmore sees them, curses, keys the radio to contact the formation leader. Lead, this is Iron Fist. We have 18 bandits closing from 4 o'clock. Request support. The response is static. Then Iron Fist, you've drifted from formation. Negative support available. Recommend close up. Whitmore looks at his gauges, his position relative to the formation. They've drifted. Maybe half a mile, not much. But in bomber formation, half a mile might as well be 10 miles. They're alone. All crew, Whitmore says. His voice is steady despite what they all know. We're unsupported. Tighten up your positions. This is going to be rough. In the tail, Annie does the math. 18 fighters, 1,600 rounds. That's 88 rounds per fighter if she distributes evenly. Not enough. Not nearly enough. Unless she doesn't distribute evenly. Unless she focuses everything on breaking their coordination before they can. Coordinate. The 18 fighters split into 3 groups. 6 from 4 o'clock. 6 from 5 o'clock. 6 holding at 6 o'clock in reserve. Annie recognizes the tactic immediately. It's the same approach from before, but with 3 times as many aircraft, overwhelmed through numbers. Standard response. Try to cover all 3 vectors. Hope waist gunners and ball turret can help. Survive through luck and prayer. Annie chooses aggression. Again. Patty Mickey, she says. Take 4 and 5 o'clock. Everything you've got. I'm holding 6. That's 12 fighters, Annie. O'Brien's voice carries doubt. You want us to engage 12 while you watch 6? Trust me. Just keep them busy for 20 seconds. 20 seconds. Copy. The attack begins at 0927 hours. 12 fighters diving from 4 and 5 o'clock. 6 fighters holding at 6 o'clock. Watching. Waiting. Annie ignores the 12. She focuses on the 6 at 6 o'clock. They're not attacking yet. They're the reserve, the follow-up. They think they're safe because the tail gunner is supposed to be dealing with the immediate threat. Annie fires at the reserve element at 1,400 yards. The Germans aren't expecting it. They're spectators, watching their comrades engage, waiting their turn. Then tracers rip through their formation center, not targeting specific aircraft, targeting the space between them. The psychological center where coordination happens. One fighter takes hits to the wing, pieces fly off, the aircraft rolls inverted, 2 others break formation trying to avoid the fire, the reserve element scatters. And the 12 fighters executing the attack see what just happened. Their support just evaporated, their follow-up element is gone. They're committed to an attack with no backup. Half of them break off immediately. Survival instinct. Don't commit to an attack without support. The other 6 continue. Brave, professional, or maybe just too committed to turn back. O'Brien and Fitzpatrick engage from the waist positions. Tracers crisscross the sky. One fighter takes hits, trails smoke, pulls away. 5 remaining. They converge on Iron Fist from 2 angles. Cannon fire lights up the sky. 20-millimeter rounds. They sound like hammers on sheet metal when they hit. Iron Fist shudders. One round punches through the fuselage 6 inches from DeLuca's head. Another takes out a hydraulic line. Fluid sprays across the interior. Taking hits. Whitmore's voice is sharp. Damage report. Hydraulics out on number 3. DeLuca responds. Ball turret has minor damage. Morrison calls. Tail is good. Annie fires at the closest fighter. 500 yards and closing. Point-blank range, the fighter can't dodge at this distance. Can't evade. It flies directly into her stream of fire, the canopy shatters, the fighter rolls, falls away. The remaining 4 break off, not repositioning, not regrouping, running. The entire 18-fighter assault has collapsed. 6 driven off by aggressive fire at the reserve element. 12 engaged by waist gunners and tail gunner. 2 shot down, 3 damaged, the rest fleeing. Annie checks her ammunition. 1,200 rounds remaining. She's used 800 rounds in 8 minutes. And they haven't even reached the target yet. Good shooting, everyone, Whitmore says. His voice carries relief. But we need to close formation. We're sitting ducks out here. Captain, DeLuca interrupts. German radio. Multiple squadrons converging on our position. They're calling in, everyone. How many? DeLuca listens to the German chatter. His face goes pale. They're saying Gruppe, full Gruppe. A Gruppe is 3 Staffels. 3 Staffels is roughly 50 aircraft. Jesus, Whitmore mutters. Then louder. All crew, we have approximately 50 bandits inbound. Time to contact unknown. Probably 5 to 10 minutes. Check ammunition, check oxygen. If anyone wants to pray, now's a good time. Annie doesn't pray. She reloads her guns, checks the feed mechanisms, clears a small jam in the right gun. Then she takes out Tommy's photograph, looks at his face, that cocky grin. You taught me to press first, brother. I'm about to press harder than anyone in this war. She tucks the photo back into her jacket and waits. 09:32 hours. The swarm. They come from the south, a dark cloud against the bright sky. Not a formation. A swarm, 48 Messerschmitt Bf 109s and Focke-Wulf 190s. 3 Staffels, a full Gruppe, all converging on 1 B-17, all converging on Iron Fist. Mother of God, Fitzpatrick whispers over the intercom. Annie counts them as they approach. 48, maybe 50. It's hard to tell when they're bunched like that. They're 2,000 yards out, forming up, organizing into attack elements. Standard response in this situation: radio for fighter escort. Tighten up with nearest bombers. Maximize overlapping defensive fire. But Iron Fist is half a mile from the nearest friendly bomber. No P-51 escorts in range. They're completely alone. 48 fighters against 1 bomber, 10 crew against a small air force. Annie has 1,200 rounds left. The math doesn't work unless she changes the equation. Captain, Annie says. Her voice is steady. Permission to try something. What? Whitmore's voice carries the edge of desperation. Attack them while they're forming up, before they coordinate. Silence on the intercom. 3 seconds of absolute silence except for the roar of engines and wind. Then Whitmore's voice. Tight, controlled. That'll burn through your ammunition in 30 seconds. Then I better make them count. Sir, defensive tactics don't work when you're outnumbered 20 to 1. Our only chance is aggressive action while they're vulnerable. Another pause. Then, do it. If you get us killed, I'm writing your family a very angry letter. Annie doesn't waste time responding. The German formation is 1,900 yards out, still organizing. Lead elements establishing attack vectors. Trailing elements moving into support positions. Perfect vulnerability. Annie opens fire. Not short controlled bursts, not suppressive fire, maximum sustained barrage. She pours 200 rounds into the formation center in 8 seconds. The guns roar continuously. The tail position fills with smoke. Brass casings rain onto the floor. She's not targeting specific aircraft, she's targeting the space where coordination happens, where fighters maintain formation discipline, where lead aircraft establish attack patterns, where wingmen follow their leaders. She's targeting the concept of coordination itself. Tracers crisscross through the formation's core. One BF-109 catches fire. The pilot bails out at 19,000 feet. Two Focke-Wulfs collide trying to evade. Both aircraft lock together, spinning earthward. The entire formation disintegrates into chaos. 48 fighters scatter in every direction. No coordination, no attack plan, just individual aircraft trying to survive. Holy Mother of God! Whitmore's voice, stunned. She just broke up the largest assault I've ever seen. DeLuca is listening to German radio. The chatter is frantic now, panicked. Tail gunner, break. Formation compromised. Who is this gunner? Herr Hauptmann orders. Klaus Becker's voice cuts through the chaos. Calm, professional. All units reform at 3,000 meters. This tail gunner is exceptional. We adjust tactics. But there's something else in Becker's voice now. Something Annie can't hear through the radio intercepts, but DeLuca can detect. Respect. This German ace with 47 kills has just encountered a gunner who fights like an equal. Annie checks her ammunition. 1,000 rounds remaining. 45 fighters still operational. 3 destroyed in her barrage, but they're reforming, learning, adapting. They're regrouping, DeLuca reports. Estimate 90 seconds before they attack again. 90 seconds. Annie uses them to reload, clear jams, check mechanisms. Her hands are shaking slightly now. Adrenaline, fear, exhaustion, but mostly determination. Tommy died at Guadalcanal fighting impossible odds. She's not going to die here. Not today. Not while she still has ammunition. At 0934 hours, the Germans attack again. No coordination this time. No formations. Just overwhelming violence. 12 fighters dive from 6 o'clock simultaneously. No tactics, no strategy, just speed and numbers. Annie picks her targets carefully. Not the closest fighters, not the most aggressive. She targets the middle of the swarm, the psychological center, where the pack's courage comes from. She fires 30-round bursts into 3 consecutive aircraft. All 3 take hits. 1 explodes, fire and debris. 2 break off trailing smoke. The remaining 9 continue. Within 400 yards now, cannon fire streams toward Iron Fist. The sound is deafening. 20-millimeter rounds hitting metal. Explosive rounds detonating on impact. The entire aircraft shudders. "Taking hits!" someone screams over the intercom. Annie keeps firing. Target, burst, mechanical precision, no fear, no hesitation. Another fighter falls, then another. 5 remaining. 200 yards, point-blank range. Annie can see the pilots' faces through the canopies. Young men, determined, professional. She shoots them anyway. 2 more fighters explode. 3 left. 100 yards. The survivors break off. Too close. Risk of collision now exceeds reward. Annie tracks the last fighter, centers it in her gun sight, squeezes the triggers. Click. Nothing. She squeezes again. Click. The guns are empty. No ammunition. 0 rounds remaining. "I'm dry," Annie calls over the intercoms. "All guns empty." The words hang in the air. The entire crew knows what that means. The tail position is defenseless. And there are 32 German fighters still out there. 0937 hours. Empty guns. Vincent DeLuca sits at his radio position. He's monitoring German frequencies with one ear, the intercom with the other. He heard Annie's call. Guns empty. He does the math. 2,000 rounds expended in 18 minutes. 12 confirmed kills. 9 damaged. 32 fighters driven off or scattered. It's the most effective defensive action he's ever witnessed. And now it's over. "Damage report," Whitmore orders. His voice is controlled. Command voice. The voice that keeps crews from panicking. The reports come in. Ball turret operational. Waist guns operational. Low on ammunition. Radio operational. Tail... Annie's voice. Tail position operational, but no ammunition. Understood. Annie, stay in position. Keep your eyes open. Call out contacts even if you can't engage. Yes, sir. DeLuca listens to the German radio. They know. Somehow they know. Tail gunner has ceased fire. Estimate ammunition exhausted. Recommend attack from 6 o'clock. Tail position is neutralized. Klaus Becker's voice responds, and now DeLuca hears something different. Not just tactics, something personal. All units reform for final attack. 6 o'clock low approach, but listen to me carefully. This tail gunner has fought with skill, with courage, with honor. They have earned respect. When we make this final attack, we do so as professionals. Engaging a worthy adversary, no mistakes, clean engagement, understood. Jawohl, Herr Hauptmann. DeLuca keys the intercom. Captain, they know Annie's dry. They're coming in from 6 o'clock low, formation attack, but something's different. Becker sounds respectful, like he's acknowledging a peer. In the cockpit, Whitmore grips the yoke. He's been flying bombers for 8 months, seen crews die, watched aircraft explode, witnessed horrors he'll never speak about, but he's never felt this helpless. His best gunner is out of ammunition. 32 fighters are regrouping for a final attack, and there's nothing he can do except fly straight and level and hope. In the tail position, Annie stares at the empty guns. 2,000 rounds gone, 12 fighters destroyed, but 32 remaining. And they're coming for her. She thinks about Tommy, about the 32 street fights in South Boston, about seizing initiative. She's out of bullets, but she's not out of fight. An idea forms, desperate, insane, maybe brilliant. She keys her intercom. Captain, permission to try one more thing. What, you're out of ammunition? I know, but they don't know if I'm completely empty or if I'm just conserving. If I can bluff them. Whitmore understands immediately. You want to aim at them with empty guns, make them think you can still shoot. It's all we have left, sir. Silence. Then do it. Nothing to lose at this point. Annie settles back into her position, grips the empty guns. The weight feels different now. Lighter. Useless. But the Germans don't know that. The fighters appear at 0938 hours, 6 o'clock low, 27 BF 109s in tight formation. Professional. Disciplined. They've learned from the earlier chaos. This time they're coordinated. This time they're careful. This time they know the tail position is defenseless. 600 yards. Annie traverses her guns, tracks the lead fighter, smooth, professional. The same way she's tracked 50 other fighters today. The same way she tracked them when she had ammunition, 500 yards. The lead pilot sees the tail guns moving, sees them tracking him, barrel aligned perfectly with his cockpit, 400 yards. His finger hovers over the trigger. He's calculating. The tail gunner hasn't fired, maybe conserving ammunition, waiting for closer range, waiting for certain kill, or maybe empty. 300 yards. Annie keeps tracking. Perfect targeting discipline, leading the target, compensating for closure rate. Everything looks exactly like it did when she had ammunition. 200 yards. The lead pilot makes his decision. He brakes. Hard right turn, immediate, instinctive. Because when someone aims at you, you evade. Doesn't matter if they can shoot. Doesn't matter if the guns are empty. The threat reaction is hardwired. Primitive. Survival instinct overriding tactical knowledge. The rest of the formation follows their leader. They break formation. Peel away. Scatter. Not because Annie can shoot them. Because they believe she can. The psychological impact of 12 kills has created phantom threat. Empty guns become as effective as loaded ones through reputation alone. They're breaking off. Fitzpatrick's voice cracks with disbelief. They're actually breaking off. DeLuca monitors the German radio. He hears Becker's voice one final time. All units disengage, return to base. This bomber, This tail gunner has proven too costly. But more than that, this gunner has fought with intelligence, with courage without waste, with honor. That deserves acknowledgement, even from an enemy. His wingman protests. Herr Hauptmann, we have them. Tail gunner must be empty. Perhaps. But look at what this gunner has achieved. 12 kills, 9 damaged. Held off an entire Gruppe with 2,000 rounds and determination. This is not luck. This is exceptional skill. This gunner fights the way I would fight, as a professional, as a warrior. I salute this adversary, and I hope to never face them again. The German fighters turn away, 27 aircraft, all retreating from one B-17, all retreating from a tail gunner with empty guns, all retreating from Annie Callahan. The intercom is silent for 10 seconds. Then Whitmore's voice, quiet, almost reverent. Annie, what you just did, I got lucky, sir. That wasn't luck, that was the bravest thing I've ever seen. Annie slumps in her seat. The adrenaline is draining now. Her hands shake. Her breathing is ragged. She's been fighting for 19 minutes that felt like 19 hours. Tommy's photograph is still pressed against her heart. I pressed first, brother, just like you taught me. DeLuca's voice breaks the moment. Guys, German radio, Becker's squadron is pulling back, but they're spreading the word, avoid the B-17 with the aggressive tail gunner, too dangerous, too costly, and I think Becker just saluted us, saluted Annie specifically. We've got a reputation now, O'Brien says. No, Whitmore corrects. Annie's got a reputation, and it just saved all our lives. They fly on toward the target. The rest of the mission is almost boring by comparison. They drop their bombs on Augsburg, destroy the aircraft factory, turn for home. 3 German fighters shadow them at a distance, but none attack. Word has spread. That bomber is cursed. That tail gunner is death. Iron Fist lands at Framlingham at 16:47 hours, 9 hours after takeoff. The crew climbs out in silence, exhausted, traumatized, alive. Ground crews swarm the aircraft, counting damage. 47 bullet holes, 13 cannon strikes, destroyed hydraulic line, cracked rudder. But it flew. It survived. Vincent DeLuca finds Annie sitting on the tarmac. She's still wearing her flight jacket, still holding Tommy's photograph, staring at nothing. You okay, kid? I killed 12 people today, Vinny. Saw their faces. They were somebody's sons, somebody's brothers. And they were trying to kill us. I know, doesn't make it easier. DeLuca sits next to her. You know what you did today. Got lucky. No, you changed everything. Every tail gunner at this base is going to hear about this. Every gunner in the 8th Air Force. You just proved aggressive tactics work. You just saved more lives than you took. Doesn't feel like it. It will. Give it time. By sunset, the story has spread through the entire bomber group. The tail gunner who killed 12 fighters in 19 minutes. Who used empty guns to bluff away 27 more. By morning, Major General Frank Morrison is flying to Framlingham personally. By afternoon, everyone knows the truth. Andrew Callahan is Annie Callahan, and she just became the most dangerous gunner in the war. Iron Fist's wheels touch the runway. The impact jolts through the damaged aircraft. Hydraulics are out. Whitmore uses manual controls. The bomber slews slightly left, corrects. Rolls to a stop at the end of the runway, silence. For 3 seconds, nobody moves, nobody speaks. The engines tick as they cool. Wind whistles through 47 bullet holes in the fuselage. Then Whitmore keys the intercom one last time. Good work, everyone. We're home. The ground crews arrive before the propellers stop turning. They swarm the aircraft, mechanics, armorers, flight surgeon, counting damage, assessing repairs needed, checking for casualties. Nobody is dead. Nobody is even seriously wounded after 9 hours of combat. After facing 60 fighters, after 19 minutes of sustained battle. Iron Fist's crew climbs out, one by one, slow, exhausted. They don't speak, don't celebrate, just stand on the tarmac and stare at nothing. Annie is the last one out. She climbs down from the tail position. Her legs are shaking, adrenaline crash. She's been running on fear and fury for 9 hours. Now it's over and her body is remembering how to be afraid. Vincent DeLuca catches her as she stumbles. "Easy, kid, I got you." "I'm okay." "You're not, but you will be." The crew chief for ground operations is a sergeant named Marcus Webb, 52 years old, recalled from retirement. He's seen 200 aircraft come back from missions. He's counted holes in fuselages, patched wings, replaced engines. He's seen damage that should have killed everyone aboard. He walks around Iron Fist slowly, methodically, taking notes. When he reaches the tail position, he stops, climbs up, examines the twin 50 caliber guns, opens the ammunition boxes, empty. Both boxes completely empty. He climbs down, finds Annie. "You the tail gunner." "Yes, Sergeant." "You fire all 2,000 rounds." "Yes, Sergeant." Webb looks at her, really looks. This kid is young, baby-faced, small, maybe 120 pounds soaking wet. "How many did you get?" Annie doesn't answer. She's staring at the sky, thinking about 12 German pilots, 12 men who were alive this morning and are dead now because of her. DeLuca answers for her. 12 confirmed, 9 damaged, 32 driven off. Webb blinks. 12 confirmed in 1 mission in 19 minutes. The ground crew stops working. Every mechanic, every armorer. They all turn to look at the small figure standing by the tail position, the kid who just became a legend. "Jesus Christ," Webb mutters. Then louder, "Someone get this gunner a beer. Hell, get the whole crew a case." "Not a pilot," Annie says quietly. "Just a gunner." "Kid, there's nothing just about what you did today." By 1700 hours, word has spread through the entire base. The tail gunner on Iron Fist killed 12 fighters, used empty guns to bluff away 27 more, single-handedly destroyed the largest German assault of the day. By 1800 hours, every tail gunner at Framlingham wants to meet Andrew Callahan, wants to know the tactics, wants to learn how to survive. By 1900 hours, the base commander wants answers, and by 2000 hours, the secret is out. March 6, 1944. 2000 hours. Base Commander's Office. Colonel Richard Henderson is 54 years old. Career officer, 30 years in the Army. He believes in regulations, order, discipline, the way things are supposed to be done. He's reviewing the after-action report from today's mission when someone knocks on his door. "Enter." Captain Whitmore walks in, stands at attention. "Sir, you wanted to see me?" "Sit down, Captain. Tell me about your tail gunner." Whitmore sits, chooses his words carefully. "Best gunner I've ever seen, sir. Aggressive tactics, exceptional target acquisition, saved the entire crew today. I've read the reports, 12 confirmed kills, unprecedented for a tail gunner in a single mission. I want to meet him. Bring him here." "Sir, there's something you need to know first." "What?" Whitmore takes a breath. "Andrew Callahan isn't exactly who we thought." Henderson's eyes narrow. "Explain." "Andrew Callahan is actually Annie Callahan, female, age 19, enlisted under false pretenses, passed as male through basic training gunnery school and 3 combat missions." The silence in the office is absolute. Henderson's face goes through several colors: white, red, purple. His jaw works, but no sound comes out. Finally, "A woman, you've been flying combat missions with a woman in your crew." "Yes, sir, and she's the reason we're all alive." "Captain Whitmore, do you have any idea what you've done?" "The regulations you've violated. This is grounds for court-martial." "I understand, sir. But with respect, she's the best gunner in the 8th Air Force. The results speak for themselves. The results are irrelevant. She's a woman. Women don't fly combat. It's against regulations. It's against nature. A new voice interrupts from the doorway. Colonel Henderson, I'll take it from here. Both men turn. A two-star general stands in the entrance. Major General Frank Morrison, commander of 8th Bomber Command. He walked in during the argument, heard everything. Henderson snaps to attention. General, I didn't know you were on base. Flew in an hour ago specifically to investigate the claims about this tail gunner. Captain Whitmore, where is Sergeant Callahan now? In the barracks, sir, resting. Bring her here, now. Whitmore leaves. Returns 5 minutes later with Annie. She's still wearing her flight suit, still exhausted. She stands at attention in front of 2 officers who can end her military career with a word. Morrison studies her. Small, young, doesn't look like a soldier, certainly doesn't look like someone who killed 12 enemy fighters. Sergeant Callahan, or should I say Annie Callahan, Annie, sir. Do you know what you've done? Yes, sir. Violated regulations, impersonated a male, flew combat under false pretenses. Those are serious offenses. Yes, sir. Why did you do it? Annie thinks about Tommy, about the photograph in her jacket, about taking initiative. Because my brother died at Guadalcanal, sir. Because someone needed to respond. Because I can shoot. And because the Army needed gunners more than it needed to check my gender. Morrison almost smiles. Almost. Colonel Henderson here wants you court-martialed, dishonorably discharged, made an example of. I understand, sir. I, however, have a different perspective. Tell me about your tactics today. Annie explains. Aggressive fire, shooting during formation phase, psychological warfare, targeting coordination rather than individual aircraft, using empty guns as a bluff. Morrison listens without interrupting. When she's done, he turns to Henderson. Colonel, what's the current tail gunner casualty rate in your group? Henderson checks his records. 39%, sir. And how many tail gunners have achieved double-digit kills in a single mission? None, sir. So we have a gunner who developed tactics that work, who achieved unprecedented results, who saved 9 American lives. And you want to court-martial her because she's a woman. Regulations are clear, sir. Regulations also say we're supposed to win this war. Show me the regulation that says a woman can't shoot a machine gun. Henderson opens his mouth, closes it, opens it again. Sir, there's no specific regulation, but then there's no violation. Captain Whitmore, your gunner is cleared for flight status. Sergeant Callahan, you're coming with me. Sir. Annie doesn't understand. I'm reassigning you, effective immediately. March 7th, 1944. 0600 hours. Morrison's temporary office. Morrison sits behind a borrowed desk, coffee steaming in a chipped mug, maps on the walls. Annie stands at attention. At ease, Sergeant. Sit. Annie sits, waits. I've been studying bomber tactics for 18 months, Morrison says. Casualty rates are unsustainable. We're losing gunners faster than we can train them. Tail gunner position is the worst. 38% don't finish their tours. You know why. Defensive doctrine, sir. It gives initiative to the enemy. Exactly. And you proved there's a better way. Yesterday you killed 12 fighters with tactics that contradict everything we teach. I want you to teach others. Sir, I want to stay with my crew. Your crew doesn't need you anymore, Sergeant. They're alive. They survived. But there are 9,000 other airmen flying missions every day, most of them using tactics that will get them killed. You can save 9 men, or you can save 9,000. Which is more important? The logic is undeniable, brutal, true. When do I start, sir? Today. I'm establishing a specialized training program. Aggressive gunnery tactics, You'll develop curriculum, select candidates, train the next generation. We're calling it the Callahan Doctrine. Annie thinks about this, about leaving Iron Fist, about never flying with Whitmore and DeLuca and the others again. But she thinks about Tommy too, about all the brothers who didn't come home, about all the brothers who still might if someone teaches their gunners to act first. I'll do it, sir. Good. One more thing. Your gender. I'm not publicizing it, not hiding it either. If people ask, we tell the truth, but I'm not making this about you being a woman. I'm making this about tactics that work. Understood? Yes, sir. Dismissed. Report to the Training Command building at 0800. Major Collins will brief you. Annie stands, salutes, turns to leave. Sergeant, sir. Yesterday you proved something important. Not that women can fight. We already knew that. You proved that courage and competence don't have a gender. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise. No, sir, I won't. March 7th, 1944. 1400 hours. Iron Fist Crew Barracks. Annie packs her footlocker. Doesn't take long. She doesn't own much. Flight suit, a few changes of clothes, letters from home, Tommy's photograph, the unsent letters to her dead brother. The crew gathers around. Whitmore, DeLuca, O'Brien, Fitzpatrick, Morrison, Hammond. They don't speak. Just watch her pack. Finally, Whitmore breaks the silence. You don't have to go. Yes, I do, sir. Morrison can find someone else to teach. He could, but he found me, and Tommy would tell me to do it. DeLuca hands her something, a patch, embroidered by hand. It shows a wildcat with wings, the letters FC underneath. Iron Fist Crew. So you remember us, DeLuca says. Annie's eyes sting. She doesn't cry, won't let herself. I could never forget you guys. O'Brien speaks up. You made us believe we could fight back, that we weren't just targets. You gave us that. Fitzpatrick nods. Every tail gunner who learns from you, they're going to live because you were brave enough to try something different. Hammond, quiet as always, adds, You're a hero, Annie, even if nobody else knows it. Annie shakes her head. I'm not a hero. I'm just a kid from Boston who got lucky. Luck doesn't kill 12 fighters, Whitmore says. That was skill, courage, and something we're all going to miss. He extends his hand. It's been an honor, Sergeant Callahan. She shakes it, then DeLuca's, then each crew member in turn. When she reaches the door, she turns back. If I did anything right, it's because you trusted me, trusted a 19-year-old kid with a crazy idea. Thank you for that. Annie, DeLuca calls out. Wait, one more thing. He disappears into his bunk area, returns carrying something wrapped in canvas. He unwraps it carefully. It's a piece of Iron Fist's tail section, salvaged from the repair, a square foot of aluminum with 4 bullet holes punched through it. This is from where you sat, DeLuca says. 4 rounds came through, missed you by inches. I want you to have it, so you remember what you survived, what you proved. Annie takes the metal, feels the weight, the holes, the aluminum that protected her while she protected them. Her fingers trace the ragged edges where German cannon fire tore through. I could never forget, she whispers. The crew stands, one by one. DeLuca first, then Whitmore, O'Brien, Fitzpatrick, Morrison, Hammond. They snap to attention. They salute, not regulation, not proper, but necessary. To their tail gunner, their sister, their wildcat. Annie salutes back. The tears come now. She can't stop them. Go save 9,000, Whitmore says quietly. We'll be fine. I know you will. But she doesn't move. Can't move. This moment needs to last. DeLuca breaks the silence. You know what I'm going to tell people when they ask about you? What? I'm going to tell them I flew with Wildcat, the gunner who changed the war. And I'm going to tell them she was braver than any man I ever met. Vinny, it's true and you need to hear it, because you're about to go teach 300 kids how to survive, and some of them won't make it. and you're going to blame yourself. So remember this, you gave us life. Now you're going to give life to thousands more. That's not luck. That's legacy. Annie nods, tucks the piece of Iron Fist's tail under her arm, picks up her footlocker. Then she's gone. Walking across the airfield toward her new assignment, her new mission, teaching others to survive. Behind her, Iron Fist sits on the hard stand, 47 bullet holes patched, new hydraulic lines installed, ready for the next mission. But the tailgun position will never be the same. They'll find a new gunner, train him on aggressive tactics, he'll do well. Maybe even get a few kills, but he won't be Wildcat. April 1944. Gunnery Training Command, First Class. Annie stands in front of 30 tail gunners. They're young, 18 to 24 years old, most straight from gunnery school, a few with combat experience. All of them volunteered for this specialized course. All of them heard about March 6, 1944, about the gunner who killed 12 fighters and lived to tell about it. They expect a grizzled veteran, someone old, experienced, scarred. They get a 19-year-old girl who looks like their little sister. The room buzzes with confusion, whispers. One gunner in the back actually laughs. Annie waits for silence. Doesn't get it. So she speaks over the noise. My name is Annie Callahan. On March 6th, I fired 2,000 rounds, killed 12 enemy fighters, damaged 9 more, drove off 32, used empty guns to bluff away a final attack. My aircraft took 47 hits but landed safely, 0 casualties. She pauses. Anyone here have better statistics than that? Silence now. Good. Then sit down, shut up, and learn something that might save your life. For the next 2 weeks, Annie teaches them everything she learned. Not from manuals, from experience. From 19 minutes of combat that felt like 19 years. The 5 principles of the Callahan Doctrine. First, seize initiative. Don't wait for fighters to attack. Engage during formation phase. Force them to respond to you. Second, psychological warfare. Your first burst doesn't need to destroy the target. It needs to intimidate the formation, make them cautious. Hesitant. Third, focus fire. When outnumbered, don't divide attention. Concentrate firepower on the most dangerous sector. Trust other gun positions. Fourth, ammunition economy through aggression. 30 rounds forcing 12 fighters to scatter is more efficient than 300 rounds engaging scattered targets. Prevention costs less than reaction. Fifth, accept risk. Tail gunner casualty rates are high under defensive doctrine. Aggressive tactics increase exposure but decrease mission losses. Individual risk versus collective survival. The class struggles with the concepts, especially the 5th principle. A gunner named Theodore Whitman raises his hand. 20 years old, smart, quick. Sergeant, aren't we more likely to get killed using aggressive tactics? Maybe, Annie says, but you're definitely going to get killed using defensive tactics. 38% casualty rate. Those are your odds playing defense. Want to try offense and see if we can improve them? Whitman considers, nods. Yes, Sergeant. He becomes her best student. Another gunner, Edward Kowalski, struggles with the aggressive mindset. 22. Polish kid from Pittsburgh. He's cautious by nature. Careful. The doctrine requires aggression, violence, initiative. Annie works with him personally, after class, in the simulators. Eddie, it's not about anger. It's about control. You're not raging, you're calculating. You're choosing when and where the fight happens. But what if I make the wrong choice? Then you learn, adjust, try again. But at least you're making choices instead of reacting to theirs. Slowly, Kowalski improves, finds his aggression, not in anger, in determination. By the end of the 2-week course, Annie has transformed 30 defensive gunners into 30 aggressive fighters. Graduation day. Morrison attends personally, watches the final simulator exercises. The students perform brilliantly. Fast target acquisition, aggressive fire, psychological intimidation. Everything Annie taught them. After graduation, Morrison pulls her aside. Impressive. When's the next class? 2 weeks, sir. Good. I'm authorizing 6 more classes, 180 gunners total. By August, I want every tail gunner in the 8th Air Force trained in your doctrine. Yes, sir. One more thing. The statistics from your first class. We tracked them. 15 are flying combat now. 0 casualties so far. Enemy fighter attack completion rate against their bombers is down 40%. Annie doesn't respond. Can't respond. 15 gunners alive because of what she taught them. 15 brothers who might go home. You're saving lives, Sergeant. More every day. Be proud of that. She tries to be. But every night she still sees 12 German pilots falling from the sky. Still sees their faces through the canopies. Still hears the sound of metal tearing and engines failing. Still wonders if Tommy would be proud or horrified. June 1944. The cost. The telegram arrives on a Tuesday. Edward Kowalski's crew, shot down over France. 3rd mission. The crew bailed out. Most survived. Made it to resistance fighters. Eventually back to England. Eddie didn't make it. He died in the ball turret. Direct flak hit. Killed instantly. But his tail gunner survived. Used Callahan doctrine. Shot down 2 fighters before the aircraft went down. Annie reads the after-action report in her office. Reads it 3 times, then sits at her desk and stares at the wall. DeLuca finds her there an hour later. He's visiting the training command, checking on old friends. He takes one look at her face and knows. Who? Eddie Kowalski, one of my students. DeLuca sits down. What happened? Flak got him. 3rd mission. Not your fault. I taught him to be aggressive, to take risks. Did I get him killed? DeLuca is quiet for a moment, then you taught him to fight back, to have a chance. Old doctrine, his entire crew probably dies. Your doctrine, most of them lived. You gave them fighting odds. That's all any of us can ask for. He was 22, Vinny. Had a girl back home. Was going to propose when he got back. And he shot down 2 fighters before he died. Saved his crewmates, died fighting instead of waiting to be killed. That's not nothing, Annie. That's something. She wants to believe him. Wants to think the doctrine is worth the cost. But Eddie Kowalski was her student. Her responsibility. How do you live with it? She asks. The ones who don't make it. You remember them. Honor them. Keep teaching so others might live. That's all you can do. It's all any of us can do. That night, Annie writes another letter she'll never send. Dear Tommy, lost a student today. Eddie Kowalski. Good kid, tried hard, died fighting. I don't know if I'm helping or hurting. Don't know if this doctrine saves lives or just makes me feel better about taking them. Miss you. Wish you were here to tell me what to do. Annie. She folds it, puts it with the 100 other unsent letters. Then she goes back to work. Because DeLuca is right. The only way to honor Eddie Kowalski is to keep teaching, keep improving the odds, keep trying to bring more brothers home. August 1944. The results. By summer's end, Annie has trained 300 tail gunners. The statistics are undeniable. March 1944. Before Callahan Doctrine, 38% tail gunner casualty rate. August 1944. After widespread adoption, 23% casualty rate. 15% reduction. That's 45 fewer dead gunners per 300 missions. 45 brothers going home. German fighter attack completion rate has dropped from 52% to 27%. More than half of all planned attacks now abort before reaching firing position. Because aggressive gunners disrupt coordination. Force early breaks. Make the cost too high. The Luftwaffe training manuals have been updated. Captured documents include new sections on American aggressive gunner tactics. The recommended counter-approach is simple: avoid. Find easier targets. Don't engage bombers with active aggressive defense. The psychological battle has reversed. Now German fighters fear American gunners. The doctrine works, the numbers prove it. This is 300 bombers saved by August, 3,000 airmen, conservative estimates, and it's spreading beyond the 8th Air Force. 9th Air Force adopts it, 15th Air Force in Italy. British Bomber Command studies it. Eventually, Soviet air forces incorporate elements. Annie Callahan's 19 Minutes Over Germany on March 6, 1944, have changed aerial combat doctrine for multiple nations. But Annie doesn't feel victorious. She feels tired. She's 19 years old, looks 30. Every night she dreams about 12 German pilots. Every morning she wakes up wondering how many of her students died yesterday. In August, Morrison calls her to his office one final time. "The war in Europe will be over soon," he says. "Maybe 6 months, maybe a year. When it's over, what will you do?" "I don't know, sir. Go home, I guess." "You've done more for this war effort than most generals. You should be decorated, promoted, recognized." "I don't want recognition, sir. I just want to go home and forget." Morrison nods, understanding. "You can't ever forget, Sergeant. None of us can, but you can choose what to remember. Don't remember the 12 you killed. Remember the 3,000 you saved." "How do you know it was 3,000, sir?" "Because I counted. Every bomber that came home because fighters broke off their attacks. Every crew that survived because their gunner used your tactics. 3,000 lives, minimum. Probably more. That's your legacy." Annie doesn't respond. Can't respond. The number is too big, too abstract. Morrison continues. "After the war, the military will write this up. Doctrine manuals, training programs, your tactics will be taught at every gunnery school. Your name will be in the textbooks. You'll be famous." "I don't want to be famous." "I know, but you deserve to be, whether you want it or not." September 1945. Going home. The war in Europe ends in May. Victory in Europe Day. Celebrations across the continent. Annie is still in England, still training gunners even though the fighting is over. Still trying to improve the odds. In September, she's finally discharged. Honorable discharge. Sergeant Annie Callahan, tail gunner, instructor, legend. She returns to Boston by troop ship. 2 weeks crossing. She spends most of the voyage on deck, staring at the ocean, thinking about everything that happened. March 6, 1944. Feels like a lifetime ago. The ship docks in Boston Harbor, September 23, 1945. The city is celebrating. Victory over Japan came a month ago. The entire war is over. Everyone is euphoric. Annie walks down the gangplank with her duffel bag, scans the crowd for her parents. She finds them near the back. Patrick Callahan, older now, grayer. His wife Mary beside him. They see Annie and freeze. Their daughter left 3 years ago as a 17-year-old girl pretending to be a boy. She's returning as a 20-year-old woman who killed 12 men and saved 3,000. They don't know what to say, what to do. Annie drops her duffel, walks to them, hugs them both. "I'm home," she says simply. That's all that matters. 1945-2002, the quiet years. Annie returns to South Boston, moves back into her childhood home, doesn't talk about the war. When people ask, she says she worked logistics, supply chains, nothing exciting. Nobody needs to know about March 6, 1944. Nobody needs to know about the 12 kills. She gets a job at the Boston Naval Shipyard. Riveter. Good work. Honest work. She's good with her hands. Quick. Precise. Tommy's photograph sits on her nightstand. Every night before sleep she looks at it. Every morning when she wakes. I did what you taught me, brother. Hope you're proud. She never marries, never has children. When asked why, she says she never found the right person. The truth is simpler. She can't imagine bringing life into a world where she took 12 lives. Can't imagine explaining to a child what their mother did. The years pass. Decades. Boston changes, the neighborhood changes, old faces disappear, new faces arrive. Annie Callahan becomes just another old woman who worked the shipyards during the war. Nothing special, nothing remarkable. 1947. Tommy's Memorial. 2 years after the war ends, Annie visits St. Augustine Cemetery. There's a memorial here. Gold Star families. Names of the dead. Tommy has no grave. He was lost at Guadalcanal, body never recovered. But there's a plaque. Bronze. Weathered. PFC Thomas P. Callahan, 1921 to 1942. He gave his life for freedom. Annie places her hand on the cold metal. The same hand that pulled triggers 2,000 times on March 6, 1944. I did what you taught me, Tommy. 12 of them. Saved 3,000 others. Hope that makes it worth it. Hope you're proud. The wind carries no answer, but she feels something. Peace, maybe. Or closure. Tommy taught her to take initiative. She did. She won. She survived. That's all any brother could ask for his sister. I'm going to live now, she whispers. Going to try to forget the war, but I won't forget you. Never you. She leaves the memorial, returns to the shipyard, back to riveting, back to the ordinary life she fought so hard to preserve. She never visits Tommy's memorial again. Some goodbyes only need to happen once. 1972. The student's visit. The history student is persistent, calls 3 times. Annie refuses twice. The 3rd time the student says, my grandmother was a whack. She died never getting recognition. I'm writing about women like her, women like you. Please, just 10 minutes. Annie agrees to coffee. Nothing more. They meet at a diner, South Boston. The student is 23, earnest, tape recorder ready. Tell me about March 6, 1944. No. Please. It's important. Why? Because young women today need to know that women fought before them. That we've always been strong, always been capable. Your story proves that. Annie drinks her coffee. Thinks about Eddie Kowalski, about 12 German pilots, about 3,000 lives. You want to know what I learned? Annie asks. Yes. I learned that gender doesn't matter when someone's trying to kill you. What matters is competence, courage. Whether you protect the people beside you, that's it. Everything else is noise people use to keep you small. That's beautiful. It's true, and it's exhausting. I spent 3 years pretending to be a man so I could do a job I was perfectly capable of doing as a woman. The disguise shouldn't have been necessary, but it was. That's what you should write about. Not that I succeeded, but that I had to lie to get the chance. The student writes frantically. Can I ask about the kills, about the tactics? No, I'm done talking about killing. Write about the 3,000 I saved. That's the story that matters. The student leaves with barely enough for a footnote. But Annie gave her the truth, the uncomfortable truth. Heroism shouldn't require disguise, but sometimes it does. And that's the real tragedy. 2002. The Last Letter. March 5, 2002. Annie Callahan is dying. The doctor said weeks. It's been months. She's stubborn. Always has been. But tonight she knows. Tonight is the end. She sits at her kitchen table, the same table where her father read Tommy's telegram 60 years ago. She pulls out paper, pen, writes one final letter. Dear Tommy, I'm dying. Doctors say lung cancer. Shipyard got me in the end. I'm not scared. I'm ready. I've had 60 years you didn't get. Met people, saw things, lived a quiet life. That's all I wanted after the war. But I want you to know something before I go. Everything I did, the fighting, the killing, the training, all of it, I did it for you, to make your death mean something, to respond to a world that took you away. I hope I made you proud. I hope wherever you are, you know that your little sister became what you taught her to be. A fighter, a survivor, someone who takes initiative and protects others. I miss you every day. I'll see you soon. Love, your runt. She folds the letter, places it with the 116 others in her lockbox. Unsent letters to a dead brother. A lifetime of conversations with a ghost. Then Annie Callahan goes to bed, Tommy's photograph on her nightstand, the piece of Iron Fist's tail section mounted on her wall. 4 bullet holes, 4 inches from death. She closes her eyes and doesn't open them again. March 17, 2002, the funeral. The family searches Annie's apartment after she dies. Small, neat, exactly what you'd expect from a woman who worked shipyards for 40 years. They find the lockbox under her bed. Inside, Tommy's photograph. Her distinguished service cross never worn. 117 letters addressed to PFC Thomas P. Callahan. Never sent, never mailed. All written between 1943 and 2002. Her cousin reads the final letter, cries. The family finally understands. Their aunt wasn't just a shipyard worker. She was a warrior who carried her brother's memory for 60 years. At the funeral, they placed Tommy's photograph on her casket. Brother and sister, together again. Finally, the service is simple, standard funeral liturgy. The family departs quickly. Cold rain, long drive home. 7 men in Air Force dress uniforms remain. The oldest, Vincent DeLuca, pulls himself up from his wheelchair. Painful, difficult, but necessary. He walks slowly to the casket, places a single red rose. Thank you, Wildcat, he whispers. Theodore Whitman steps forward next. 78 years old, places his rose. You taught me that fear is normal, courage is choosing to act anyway. The others follow, one by one. Each rose, each memory. You showed us survival isn't about hiding. You proved women belong anywhere men do. You saved my crew, I never got to thank you. You made me believe I could fight back. You gave me tools to protect my brothers. When they finish, 7 roses rest on the casket. 7 lives she directly saved, 7 witnesses to her legacy. She should have been famous, Whitman says. Should have gotten medals, recognition, parades. DeLuca shakes his head. She got something better. She got to live quietly, got to forget. That's what she wanted. But the world should know. The world doesn't need to know her name. It just needs to remember what she proved. That courage has no gender. That doctrine isn't sacred. That seizing initiative saves lives. They stand for another minute, then leave. Slow steps through mud and rain. Old men remembering a young woman who changed their lives. When they're gone, the cemetery is silent except for rain. Annie Callahan rests alone. But not for long. 2010. The first wreath. March 6, 2010. Vincent DeLuca is 88, wheelchair-bound, but he makes this trip every year. He arrives at Annie's grave carrying 7 roses, 1 for each of the officers who attended her funeral in 2002. Only 3 left alive now, but the tradition continues. He finds something unexpected, a wreath, European design, expensive, hand-delivered. The card reads in careful English. To the tail gunner of March 6, 1944, you were my greatest adversary, my most respected opponent. I am honored to have faced you. KB. DeLuca stares at the initials. KB Klaus Becker. The German ace from that day. He's alive, sending wreaths to Annie's grave. DeLuca sits in his wheelchair and laughs, cries, both at once. Annie, you crazy kid, even your enemies respected you. Even the man you defeated honors you. That's legacy. He places his 7 roses beside Becker's wreath. 2 warriors, 2 nations, 1 war, connected by respect that transcends victory. Every year after until Becker's death in 2023, the wreath arrives. And every year DeLuca, and after his death in 2014, Whitman adds roses. Enemies in war, united in remembrance. 2024. United States Air Force Academy, Colorado Springs. The classroom holds 40 cadets, future officers, future pilots. They're studying defensive tactics in aerial combat. The instructor is Captain James Torres, 32 years old, fighter pilot, combat veteran. Today we discuss the Callahan Doctrine, Torres says, developed during World War II by a tail gunner named Annie Callahan, age 19, female, March 6, 1944. He pulls up statistics on the screen, before and after casualties, fighter attack completion rates, lives saved. The doctrine revolutionized defensive aerial combat. Prior to Callahan, defensive gunners used reactive tactics, wait for enemy to commit, respond to threats, conserve ammunition, result 38% casualty rate. He clicks to the next slide, shows the 5 principles: initiative, psychology, focus, economy, risk acceptance. Callahan proved that aggressive defense works better than passive defense, not because aggressive is inherently superior, but because it seizes initiative, forces the enemy to respond instead of act. In 19 minutes over Germany, Callahan killed 12 fighters, damaged 9, drove off 32, using 2,000 rounds and empty guns as a bluff. A cadet raises her hand, female, 20 years old. Sir, what happened to Sergeant Callahan after the war? Torres checks his notes. She returned to Boston, worked in a shipyard, died in 2002. Funeral attended by 17 people. 17, she saved thousands. She did, but she lived quietly, refused recognition, refused medals. The only people who knew were those she'd saved personally. That's not right, sir. She should be famous. Torres considers this. Famous isn't always better, cadet. Callahan got something more valuable than fame. She got peace, got to live on her own terms, got to forget the 12 men she killed while remembering the 3,000 she saved. Sometimes that's worth more than recognition. The class is silent. Torres continues. Modern military psychology still studies Callahan's tactics. The concept of aggressive defense appears in training manuals for every nation with advanced air forces. Her 19 minutes changed doctrine globally. Not because she was trying to be revolutionary, because she was trying to survive. And she figured out that survival means making the enemy scared to attack you. After class, the female cadet approaches Torres. Sir, where's Sergeant Callahan buried? St. Augustine Cemetery, Boston. Why? I want to visit, want to thank her. She's been dead 22 years. I know, but she needs to know women like me exist because of what she did. Torres nods, understanding. There's one more thing about Callahan. Every year on March 6, someone leaves flowers at her grave. 7 roses, we don't know who, but it's been happening since 2003, someone remembers. The cadet smiles. That's beautiful, sir. It is, and it's the kind of legacy that matters more than fame. The people whose lives you changed remember you, honor you, keep your story alive. That's immortality. March 6, 2024, St. Augustine Cemetery, 80 years. An old man walks slowly through the cemetery, 99 years old, cane in hand. Every step is difficult, but he makes this walk every year. Theodore Whitman, last surviving member of Annie's first training class, last living witness to the beginning of the Callahan Doctrine. He reaches her grave, Simple headstone. Annie Callahan, 1925-2002. She hit first. DeLuca arranged for that headstone, made sure it said what mattered. Whitman places 7 roses, one for each of the original officers who attended her funeral. Only one left now. The others died over the past 20 years. But the tradition continues. 7 roses, every March 6, for as long as someone remembers. Beside the roses, a wreath from Klaus Becker's grandson, continuing his grandfather's tradition even after the old ace's death in 2023. Still keeping the promise, Annie, Whitman says. Still teaching your tactics, still saving lives. You'd be amazed how many pilots know your name now. How many study your methods. You changed everything, even if you never wanted credit. The wind carries his words away. I'm 99 now. Won't make it to 100 probably. This might be my last visit, but I wanted to tell you something. Something I never said when you were alive. He pauses, gathering strength. You saved my life March 6, 1944. Not directly, I wasn't there. But you saved me by proving there was a better way, by teaching me to fight back. I flew 27 missions because of what you taught me. Came home, met my wife, had kids, grandkids, great-grandkids, 60 years of life I wouldn't have had without you. His voice breaks. Thank you, Wildcat. Thank you for showing us how. He turns to leave. Slow steps. Old bones. Behind him, fresh roses rest on the grave of a woman who changed warfare and died unknown. But the sky remembers. And now, finally, so does history. 2024. March 6th. The dedication. 80 years after Annie Callahan changed aerial warfare, Framlingham Air Base holds a ceremony. The old base is now a museum. The RAF and USAF jointly dedicate a memorial. Bronze plaque. Annie's face. Her story. Sergeant Annie Callahan, 1925-2002. She proved courage has no gender. 200 people attend. Pilots, historians, military scholars, and one 99-year-old man in a wheelchair, Theodore Whitman, last living witness. They ask him to speak. He declines, too tired, too old. But after the ceremony, a young female cadet approaches him, 22 years old, fighter pilot training. Sir, I'm studying Sergeant Callahan's tactics. I wouldn't be here without her. Thank you for remembering her. Whitman looks at this young woman, this future pilot, this inheritor of Annie's legacy. Don't thank me, he says. Thank Annie, and honor her the only way that matters. How? Fight like her. Aggressive, smart, fearless. Don't wait for permission to be excellent. Seize it. That's what she did. That's what changed everything. The cadet salutes. Whitman salutes back. Then he's wheeled away, toward the sunset, toward the end. But Annie's legacy continues in every aggressive gunner, every female pilot, every person who learned that courage and competence don't have a gender. March 6, 1944. 23,000 feet over Germany. Annie Callahan fired 2,000 rounds in 19 minutes. Killed 12 enemy fighters, damaged 9 more, drove off 32. Used empty guns as a bluff to save 9 lives, developed a doctrine that saved 3,000 more, changed aerial combat tactics for every nation, then went home to Boston. Worked in a shipyard, lived quietly, died with 17 people at her funeral. But somewhere tonight, a young pilot studies tactics developed by a 19-year-old girl who refused to wait for death, who took initiative, pressed hard, and kept pressing until the enemy was too scared to fight. That's her legacy. Not fame, not medals, not recognition. Just 3,000 people who came home because she taught their defenders to be aggressive. Just a doctrine that still saves lives 80 years later. Just a quiet grave in Boston with 7 roses and a wreath from a former enemy who learned respect. Just a brother's photograph that traveled across an ocean and back. That witnessed 12 kills and 3,000 saves. that now rests with its owner in the earth, where it all began. Annie Callahan died unknown, but her ideas are immortal, and somewhere above this earth, past the clouds and contrails and the thin blue line between sky and space, there's a place where warriors rest. Tommy Callahan is there, 21 forever, Golden Gloves champion, the brother who taught his sister to take initiative, and now Annie is there too, 19 forever in her memories. Tail gunner, instructor, wildcat, brother and sister, together again, looking down at a world they helped save, proud of each other, proud of what they taught, proud that courage in the end needs no permission, only action. The sky remembers, and that's enough.